Hello, good evening, Phoenix people. Zoe here from Phoenix Coaching. It has been ages since I did one of these, or like a proper evening one. Last time I did a pre-record and then we did a watch back to see how that went down, but back tonight, back talking live again. So I posted a question this morning. I'm going to repeat the question now. So if you haven't had a chance to answer, then you can answer me here and we can still talk about it, so it's not too late. The question I asked this morning was, what do you admire in the mindset of sports people that you would like to have in your day-to-day life? That was the first question. And the second question was, which sports person do you admire for their mindset? So not necessarily for their achievements, but for their mindset. So there were two questions that I posed this morning. People have been answering now, which has been great. So we've been getting into some discussion there. So if you've already answered on the other post, that's great. Thank you so much. If you want to answer now, by all means, post it in the comment section and I'll pick it up as we go along. So some of the names that came up are, so Sophie Hemming, which I know some of you will know. She is retired now. She was an England rugby player, incredible athlete, incredibly humble too. I met her a couple of times, incredibly humble, professional athlete, but still had a full-time job. So she was mentioned on the post earlier. Hi, James. Then Serena Williams was mentioned. She is also mine for lots of different reasons, which we'll come to in a moment. Muhammad Ali was mentioned. Ross Edgley was mentioned. Now, some of you may not have heard about Ross. If you haven't, have a little look. Check him out over on social media. Instagram's a great place to look. He swam around Great Britain. He is mad as a box of frogs, and set himself the challenge of swimming around Great Britain. It took him something like 3 months. He didn't step on land in that time. He literally just kept swimming. He would sleep on the boat. Like his feet and legs stopped working where he wasn't walking properly. He was just swimming, eating, sleeping. There's pictures of him with jellyfish, with seals, with dolphins. It's incredible. So if you've never heard of Ross Edgley, go and have a look. So his name came up. Michael Jordan came up. LeBron James came up. The British cycling team came up. Jack Johnson, the boxer, came up. And there were still, I haven't looked in the last minute or so, but there were a couple of comments still coming in. So some really great athletes there. And if you have a look at the comments, for lots of different reasons. So I wrote down and circled some of the words that came up. So dedication, motivation, resilience, sacrifice, stubbornness, drive, greatness, mental strength, determination, which I guess could also be stubbornness, and work ethic as well. So those were some of the key words that people came up with. His audio book, and it is a paperback book as well, World's Fittest, is a great book. I think he's also got, or certainly been interviewed on some podcasts. He's got so much value. It's not just his physical achievement, but actually just his mindset to be able to do some of the things that he has accomplished is incredible. It's resilience at another level. He really does take it to the next level. So my sister went to see him. He's doing a tour at the moment. My sister went to see him and was buzzing when she came back. Now I find the stuff fascinating anyway, but she was absolutely buzzing when she came back. And I know Stuart, who's also on the page following, I know he's got tickets to go as well. So if it's, have a look, check to see if he's got tour dates left, because it would definitely be worth a look. Ellen MacArthur, James, I'm going to confess, I don't think I know who that is. Can you just tap me something in the comments and let me know who she is and why she's inspirational to you? I'd be really, really interested to know, and I'll have a quick Google of her afterwards. Yeah, so those were some of the words that came up. And they are all, you know, these are things that I hear from people all the time. You know, these aren't just characteristics that people need to succeed in sport. These are all characteristics that make people successful all round. You know, these are things that people are aspiring to be, to themselves and to other people. So when I was looking through them, and actually when I was talking to a group a little while ago, and I was asked the question around how do what qualities or characteristics did I have that were kind of a similar theme throughout my life. And I think that's when I then wrote a blog a little while ago on positivity, determination, and resilience. And those were the three things that I would use to describe firstly, the things that got me through some of my more difficult periods in life. Secondly, the same three things were really what made the sport of strongwoman come together for me. Was that positivity, the determination, and the resilience all came together in that sport as well. And then I've also, you know, having reflected on it, looking at talking about coming out and starting up my own business, those three things are coming up again, time and time again: staying positive, being resilient, being determined. So they are definitely three things that I feel are a pattern in things that I have either chose, you know, things that have either happened to me or things that I have made happen. Those three things those three characteristics have definitely been a key theme in what's got me through it, and not just kind of dragged myself through it, but what's kind of got me out the other end as more of a yay rather than a. There's probably words that go with that, but I don't know what they are. So, right, James, she's a sailor. She sailed around the world solo. It was filmed, showing grit and determination, and now does a lot of charity work. That rings a bell. If it's who I think I know who that is. In which case, if it is who I'm thinking of, yeah, absolutely incredible. Was she the first? Female to have done that, or was she the first female to have done it solo? I do think I know who you're talking about, but absolutely, even to do it on her own when you don't have somebody there who's, you know, I know there would have been a support team, you know, probably, but at some distance, to be able to do some of these challenges on your own, to be in the water swimming on your own, or to be in that boat on your own. Like, where do you go in your head when this stuff happens? What conversation are you having in your head to keep yourself going, to keep that determination and that drive going when there's nobody there to say those words to you? You know, how do you have that conversation with yourself? You know, and the same thing, not just from a sport perspective, but when you're working through stuff in life and there's nobody there to be having that conversation with you. If you haven't got a set of cheerleaders and a group of fans that are cheering and encouraging you on, if you don't have a big fan base who have this belief in you, who does have the belief in you? Is it family? Is it friends? Is it a partner? Or those are all really important. But if you don't believe in it yourself, it doesn't matter how many people are cheering you on. You've got to have that self-belief. So this is one of the key things with some of these, you know, with probably a lot of these athletes, they have to have that self-belief. That's critical to that success, because if you don't believe that you can do it, it doesn't matter how many people are chanting your name. If you don't believe that you can do it, it is going to get more difficult. So, hi Marie. So in terms of that support network, think of it in the sports world. You've got your fan base, you've got your coaching team, you've got people that you train with, you've got people who perhaps you have your practice sparring, scrimmaging, or practice games with. But when it comes down to it, regardless of who you have in that support network, you have to have that self-belief too. So I wrote a blog. It must have been last summer, because it was after Serena Williams won her tournament, and it was after the England football team didn't win, but they had their most successful tournament in quite some time. And I wrote a blog about it then. I'll post the link in because it is still relevant, so I'll repost it. But in the blog, I was talking about how it's just as important. I'm going to say off the court, because that's terms for me in basketball that I'm more familiar with, but in terms of off court or off pitch, what is happening is just as important. So if you think about it from a sports perspective, how you are eating, sleeping, training the rest of the time is just as important, if not more so. From a business perspective, when you're not with your customer or you're not with your client, how you're showing up, the work that you're putting in is just as important to keep that growth and that development going. If you think about your own personal development, what you're doing when nobody else is watching, what you're doing in that extra time is the bit that that's the difference that makes the difference. If you want to be like the small percentage of the population that are successful, you need to do what other people aren't doing. You need to show up every day, you need to be consistent, and you need to keep putting the work in. That's the difference that will make you stand out and put you into that small percentage of people, the 2%, or I've heard more recently 5%, which is good, because that means more people are stepping out of their comfort zone to be successful. But you need to do something different. You need to surround yourself with people who are successful, and you need to do the things that other people are not doing to keep bringing yourself up at that level, whether it's to keep up or whether it's to step above what other people are achieving and to keep that momentum going. So what you're doing off court or outside of that time is also really important, and having that positive mindset. How are you showing up daily towards your goals? It's not just about waiting until the week before and then suddenly trying to get that a week of training in. That's not how people who are successful in sport turn up. They turn up all the time. They turn up how they eat, how they sleep, how they train, how they practice. You look at some of the top basketball stars, they are there from when the court is open at 7 o'clock in the morning, and they are there after the games as well. It's not just about, turning up to warm up with the team. It's about showing up for strength and conditioning. It's about showing up for shooting practice. It's about showing up for the team, not just the team training, but your own personal training as well, and making sure that you're doing everything that needs to be done for that success to happen. So it's about showing up daily. And as I've already mentioned, it's about that belief system as well. It's all very well if everybody else believes in you, but if you don't believe in yourself, if you don't have that self-belief, then that is going to hold you back. So one of the things I talked about in the blog last year was a quote that was given in the media from the England manager, saying that, we've had this story that we've been telling ourselves about English football for a long time around, the success in penalties. We have this story that we tell about what England are like when they take penalties. And so lots of work was done around visualization, but around how he referred to writing your own story, writing what you want to happen. And I know when I competed, I did a lot of work around visualizing how I wanted the day to go, how I wanted the competitions and different events to go. So you have to write your own story. You have to write what you want to happen, not what's happened in the past, not what's happened to other people, but what you want to happen for you in the future in terms of your goals. And it's about having that growth mindset. There's two ways of thinking. You either think that you have the level of success and the level of your achievement, the level of your intelligence is determined at birth, and you either can do it or you can't, or you can have a more growth mindset around the fact that your ability, your intelligence, your ability is determined by your effort and your enthusiasm and how much work you put into your own development, but it's not necessarily predetermined and that you can work to change it. So growth mindset, there's no such thing as failure. It's all about learning, and that learning gives you an opportunity to grow. So if we never fail, we never learn, and if we never learn, we never grow. So failing is really, really important. If you have a fixed mindset, then failing is a lot more difficult to swallow, because you think that you're never going to get any better because your ability is predetermined. So it's about adopting that growth mindset for your own goals, not writing it off at the first hurdle because you've never been good at that, or you never succeed at that, or you're now too old to do that, or you're too slow to do that. Whatever it is you're telling yourself, it's time to re-change the last few chapters of your story to give it the ending that you are determined to work for. So some of those words, just to recap, some of those words that came up for sports people are absolutely the characteristics that you need for your success in your own personal goals, whatever they are. Dedication. You know, you have to show up every day. You can't just rock up periodically and give it 100% on a Monday and then 90% on a Tuesday, 50% on a Wednesday, and then nothing else the rest of the week. You have to dedicate, show up every day. Even if it's only a small amount, you have to show up every day towards your goals. That resilience, you know, when you hit that rough patch, when you hit that first challenge, when you get that first knock, when somebody first tells you that you're crap and it's not going to happen and you've made the wrong decision, you know, when you first get that big knock that makes you really question whether the goal that you're working towards is the right goal for you, that's when that resilience kicks in. Get knocked down, you've got to get back up again, and that is the resilience, and you'll learn to do that. But the more you get knocked down, the more that you'll get back up again. If you get knocked down and you don't get back up and you choose to do something else, you're never going to learn that resilience, which is so incredibly important. Motivation is another one. You know, what are you focusing on? How are you motivating yourself? If you're swimming around Great Britain, how many times in that 3 months must have Ross Edgley have questioned what the bloody hell he was doing? Why is he still doing it? Why doesn't he just stop? Because he's already achieved more than anybody else has achieved, so why not just stop where he's at? You know, where is that motivation coming from to be able to finish, to not give up? You know, so it's that intrinsic motivation. It's about looking forward to what you want to achieve. Sacrifice. You know, we can't, you know, we have to expect that we will have to sacrifice certain things to be able to achieve what we want. It might be time, it might be energy, it might be money that we've saved up. You know, we can't just, again, rock up and just expect for us to make things happen. If you want to lose weight, you have to sacrifice eating as much food as you've already eaten, or certain foods that you've eaten, or alcohol. Or you might have to sacrifice sitting for a night in front of Netflix to go and be active, go for a walk, go to the gym, go and play some sport. You know, you can't expect things to change without making changes. And when you make changes, you have to sacrifice something. You have to give something up to make time for what it is you want to work towards. So you have to balance out, what is it you know, how much do you want the goal that you're working towards? What are you willing to do to make that happen? What are you willing to sacrifice to make sure that you succeed in that goal? Because if you're not willing to sacrifice anything, then the chances are you're probably not going to succeed. Just like maths has never been my strong point, but that's a pretty simple one. You know, you have to change, you have to do things differently to make something different happen, and that means that you have to sacrifice something that you have been doing, or time, energy, money, to make that happen. Okay, stubbornness, drive, determination, they're all similar, the same, depending on what your interpretation of those words are. They are very similar, but you know, where is your, I mean, stubbornness, determination, drive to keep going, to keep that momentum going towards your goals. You know, people who are successful are determined. They see the goal in front of them. They are determined to continue towards that and to do what needs to be done to get them to where they want to get to. They are willing, determined to make the changes that they need to make. They're determined, stubborn, what was the other one? Stubbornness, driven to make those things happen and to keep that momentum going. So you need those things too. You know, where is your determination coming from? You know, where, you know, is it the motivation that is making you more determined? Is it the fact that you want to succeed rather than to fail that makes you more determined? Is it somebody else who is making you more determined? Do you need to bring in an external resource to help that? You know, we have to have that self-belief. We have to have people around us that are supportive, but who is going to help us keep that drive, that determination, and that stubbornness going. Those are very much internal resources. So even if you've got external people or external resources encouraging you and giving you the right tools, the right skills, the right support for you to do that, you have to have the internal drive and determination and that stubbornness to really dig your heels in when things get tough, to keep going. Mental strength, I think it probably is the umbrella that all of these come under. I would say that all of these characteristics come under the umbrella of mental strength, but it is that resilience, it is that determination. And it is the work, and I think finally, the last one that was mentioned was work ethic. You know, being able to continuously show up every day, to be consistent, to show up towards what it is you're working towards. You know, there's no point, if you're only putting in 10% work, you're only going to get 10% results. So you have to show up, you have to bring that work ethic into it for things to happen. You know, the 100% might look different for different people, but you need to bring something in to contribute to that 100%. You can't just keep showing up with a very, very small amount and expect things to happen. You can show up consistently with a small amount and things will start to happen, but it has to be consistent. And that's why I always talk to people about small steps, something that they can introduce that will help them to keep that consistency, that will help them to keep that momentum going. So Marie, Liz and Sham, who have turned up while I was talking, good evening. I'm not quite sure who is there, who has dropped off and who has gone. If you've got any questions, nobody's posted anything while I was chatting away. Hopefully there has been something in that half an hour that, a little snippet that was either interesting or useful to you. I'm just going to sip of my tea there. But if there are any questions, I always forget to scroll down on here. If there are any questions or comments, do let me know. If you're watching back, you can still comment. I will pick them up retrospectively and reply to you. Really good responses tonight, really interesting. Really interesting to see some of the people who have come up. I'm not surprised that Serena Williams came up. I'm not surprised that Muhammad Ali came up. Michael Jordan, LeBron James, you know, they are your standard international, very successful, very well-known athletes. But it was also interesting to see some other people in there who are not as well-known. Go and have a look. You know, Ross Edgley is an incredibly interesting person to have a look at some of the challenges he has put himself through. Sophie Hemming, an incredible athlete, very, very determined. But certainly I would say one of the pioneers in women's rugby. But, you know, to commit yourself to that sport and still hold down a full-time job. But it's interesting that I didn't know that she's gone on to be successful in another sport since retiring from rugby. But it just goes to show that when you've got those characteristics and you've got that level of determination and motivation to succeed, sometimes it doesn't matter then what you put your energy into, you're putting in the same ingredients to get the same level of success. So thank you everybody who joined in the discussion. Hi James, popping in at the last minute. So if, like I said, if you're watching back and you've got questions or comments, throw them in the comment section, because I will make sure that they get answered. The debate is, I think, probably still going on the other post. I'll leave it open because it's really interesting to see what people think, but hopefully there has been something in there this evening that's either interesting or useful. Yeah, Ross, you're absolutely right. Self-belief is also a big part of success when needing to be resilient. Yeah, if you get knocked down, you have to have that self-belief that getting up again is worth it. And that does play a big part in being resilient. I don't think it's on the activity sheet this month, but I think it was on last month's, where I talked about being your own cheerleader. We can't always rely on having people around us to give us that external conversation. So we have to tap into that internal conversation to tell us that it is worth getting up, it's worth fighting, it's worth dragging ourselves through it, it's worth staying up late at night, getting up early in the morning, eating the right food and everything else. It's all worth it. So thank you, Ross. I'm glad it was useful, interesting for you. I will leave you all there. Gosh, that half an hour went really quickly. I will love you and leave you. Thank you for giving up half an hour of your evening to join me. Get involved in the debate. Keep the comments coming. I will answer. Have a great rest of the week. Fantastic bank holiday weekend. Will we get sunshine? Who knows? And I will speak to you all very soon. Take care.